Hello and welcome back to Holy Discourse. It has been a long time. Life has just been crazy, and I've been mostly focusing on my animation channel because that's actually like my actual like passion project and what I truly love doing. I have started a store if you want to check that out, or mostly my photography and everything for my animation channel. I have nothing for this channel. If you would like for this channel, just let me know and I'll try to come up with something. Uh, but yeah, today we are going to watch someone who was previously hired by Caleb Hammer. And I watched, this came up, I think it was like it was a Nicholas Diorio channel. And so I had watched a bit of his, and I was like, oh, this is actually kind of interesting. I know there's a lot of Hassan Piker stuff going on and everything right now. So I have been watching a lot of that. I've been keeping up with it. But there just hasn't been something that kind of strikes me of like what I want to discuss on the internet. Like that stuff just is like, I mean, Hassan has been doing, it seems like, bad things, maybe possibly supporting terrorists from the sounds of it, and from what I've kind of seen, it's kind of like, ooh, that's not great. Um, so yeah, I don't, like, I don't know what to say about that. Like, dude, just don't do it. Like, I have no good commentary with that. Um, yeah, but this video is more like, here's the tea, and then that happened, and then so from what I've seen, he cuts a lot of stuff out. Um, I know he does talk about Brent Davey, which I did actually just watch both of Brent Davey's episodes because the new episode is supposed to come out soon, which I'll probably post this after Thanksgiving, so this will be out. That'll be, that'll be already out at that point. Um, and yeah, let's just jump into it.
Hey guys, what's up? I have attempted to record this video at least a half a dozen times, not just within the last.
Ooh, I am going to put it on 1.5 times speed because it is a long video. And it is late.
Week or so, but within the last like 6 months or whatever, since I've started making content again, I've tried to start this video so many different times. Nobody understands. That's the other thing, is that nobody understands. Nobody understands that I think about this situation compulsively. I think about this situation at least once an hour every single day. I'm filled with fear around this situation. Even though I have had months to decompress and months to rebuild myself as a person.
Okay, already, like, I know he hasn't given context, but already he's like, I'm afraid of everything. And it's like, okay. And it's like, I think about this once a day, once an hour, I mean, I've been let go from a job because at that time I was super sick and I just wasn't getting any better. I had mono twice in a year, then I had COVID straight after. I just wasn't showing up to work because I just felt so awful and my meds were wrong, so I had to change around my meds. I was not having a good time. And because of that, I was not going to work, and I was in like a sales type job, so my sales weren't good, and so they let me go. And it was just like, okay, fair enough. Like, I get it. Like, I've struggled this year. I've I've been trying, but I can't do. I literally feel like I can't get out of bed. Like, you're doing what you need to do, and now I was like, hey, you need to quit your job and like move. Kind of like not only move out of your parents' house, but move to where I promised you that you were going to move to. And that was super scary because I didn't want to move like states away, with no job. Like, I had a very good pile of money, but I would have had absolutely no job. And it was hard to find a job states away because everyone was like, you want to move here? Why do you want to move here? And it's like, because I like it down here. And they're like, well, that's weird, and we need someone right this second. So it was a very, is it's very scary. But all this, like, as soon as I got fired, it was like 2 weeks later I found a new job. Maybe not even 2 weeks, it might have been less than that. Let's just say 2 weeks. And then I found my house within, I don't know, another 2 weeks. I was like, hey, I need to start in like a month or something like that. Like, I'll go and they basically have like a training academy. Like, if you've watched my animations, I'm a mailman now, and it was like, okay, well, they're going to do the training academy. You can either do it like a month from now. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to have to wait for a month from now because I don't know if I'm renting, if I'm going to get a house. Like, I need to see what the market is around here and all that. So I moved. I ended up getting a house. I am so blessed. Like, and him being like, oh, I fear every day about me being fired. Like, you just got to take it on the chin and just be like, you know what? This happened. And I do understand that I was in a privileged position because I was still living with my parents, and I could understand financially that would be super scary if you lived alone, if you were single. I mean, even if you had a partner, like, that's still super scary because that's an income that's not coming in. But I wouldn't, unless I like did something super bad, like you're like embezzling or something, like, why would you be afraid that they were gonna, like, why would you be afraid at all about your past job? I rambled a lot. I'm sorry.
Right? Like, I still think about this situation and it strikes me to my core with fear. Let's get this thing an intro, huh? My name is Noah Chrysler. For about 8 or 9 months, I believe last year, I worked for a man named Caleb Hammer. The job started out as a dream, right? It originally felt like I was like living in this dream, that like my dreams were coming true, and I moved all my shit to Texas. And then it slowly devolved into a nightmare. I signed 3 contracts while working for Caleb Hammer. Right? Like, I still think about this situation and it strikes me to my core with fear. Let's give this thing an intro, huh? My name is Noah Chrysler. For about 8 or 9 months, I believe last year, I worked for a man named Caleb Hammer. The job started out as a dream, right? It originally felt like I was like living in this dream, that like my dreams were coming true, and I moved all my shit to Texas. And then it slowly devolved into a nightmare. I signed 3 contracts while working for Caleb Hammer. Each one includes things like a non-disclosure, a non-compete clause, and legal language that made it incredibly hard to figure out what I'm even allowed to say. And because this all happened in Texas, I've had to navigate a legal landscape that doesn't exactly favor people in my position. Making this video...
Again, that's fair. I feel like as a YouTuber, you have to, you're competing against other companies, but you're competing against them very publicly. So you want to make sure that you have like a non-disclosure agreement, that you're not going to take stuff somewhere else. I mean, even if you're working at bigger companies and you have like a good position, you're probably going to sign a non-disclosure agreement too, just so that you're not going to be like selling information to other companies or whatever.
It's been absolutely exhausting. I've spent weeks trying to get it right, fact-checking, editing meticulously, and replaying memories that I wish I could forget. I did this because I know the risks, but I also know what it's cost me to stay silent. This isn't easy for me, not just legally, but personally. For the first half of this story, I considered Caleb to be one of my closest friends. We worked side by side, and I barely knew anyone else in Austin, so the way this ended is something I've carried with me every day since. Throughout this video, you'll hear my voice come in from time to time. Those parts have been carefully crafted to reduce my legal liability. Putting this out at all might be a mistake, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Over the past 6 months, as I've returned to making my own content, I've been using it as a way to sort through the harder chapters of my life. I started a podcast series called My Failure Resume, where I reflect on old projects, not to wallow, but to make sense of them, to lay them to rest. I didn't set out to make this video, but if I'm honest, I think some part of me always knew it was coming, that behind the other stories that I was telling, this was the one that was waiting, and sooner or later, I'd have to face it. There were some things that were happening at the company that I was deeply not okay with. So I marched into the office of Caleb's business partner. That morning, I had a private conversation with Robert, the main business manager of the company. For weeks, I'd been wrestling with growing concerns about what I was seeing behind the scenes. When I would raise these concerns in other areas of the company, they would fall on deaf ears. That day, I finally voiced them directly and privately to Caleb's main business manager, Robert. I told Robert that I couldn't keep working there unless serious changes were made at the company. That afternoon...
And so Caleb's talked about this in his, like, talking with guests, if they've gotten, like, laid off or whatever. Like that super, what was that blonde girl that had the super annoying laugh and that was like, ah! Or whatever. Like, she was like, I got fired because my boss was intimidated with me. And it's like, it sounds like you were maybe trying to, it's one thing to be like, hey, not only voice your concerns, but be like, hey, like, this is, maybe this system's not working or whatever. Like, could we talk about maybe changing it, or could we talk about like tweaking it to make it maybe like run a little smoother, or, because I'm sure there is stuff a part of his show that he could do better. And when you hire a team, you have a bunch of people with a bunch of different ideas. So that makes sense. But just kind of the way he's phrasing it, it sounds like he's wanting not just change, but maybe restructure of everything. And I have watched half to most of this, and the way he's kind of describing it is, I thought this channel was this way, but it's this way, and I wanted it to be this way. And it's like, well, you're not the person who owns the YouTube channel, so you're not really getting a say in it. If you want a channel to be like that and you think it would be successful, then you should go and do it yourself.
Robert pulled me into his office and I was let go. I asked if Caleb planned to even say anything to me as I was being fired, and Robert informed me that no, he would not. As Robert delivered the news, he told me that there was a severance offer, but to receive it, I need to sign an additional agreement. It was the most restrictive NDA I'd seen so far. It made it clear, if I took the money, I couldn't talk about any of this. I told him I needed some time to think. Later that evening, Caleb texted me a large video file. It was the security camera footage of his business manager, Robert, firing me. Caleb just texted it to my phone. Shocked, I watched the video back in disbelief. Then I immediately blocked Caleb's number. Now, I told Caleb multiple times, on camera and off camera, that being let go was something that I carried a lot of emotional baggage around. It was a trigger for me, and it's something that we even discussed on his show more than once. So when I received that video file I couldn't help but wonder, why send it to me like that, at that time? That's just what I thought in the moment. I drop everything. I immediately go and I drive to Walmart and I buy the largest baseball bat that I can possibly find. And then I bought mace. I bought like personal.
Bro, you live in Texas. Like, if you're that afraid of someone breaking and entering, get a gun. Like, seriously, if you're afraid of someone coming and, like, hurting you or threatening you or, like, physically trying to beat you up, then yeah, but I don't think Caleb's going to show up to your front door and be like, oh, you know, whatever. Like, obviously he didn't even kind of care enough to go into your discussion of you getting laid off. So what makes you think he's going to show up to your house? Like, why would he? What would be the reason of doing that? He let you go. It would be more, I could see him more being afraid, since this person seems to be constantly talking about his firing. I think this is his like second or third video talking about it or something like that. And so I would be a little bit more afraid that you were just going to randomly show up to the studio and be like, maybe not harm anyone, but just be like yelling at people like, well, you shouldn't be doing this or you shouldn't be doing that. And it's like, dude, you were let go. You don't work here anymore. Like, why do you care? Like, just go online if you care that much and just like talk about it. And if we think your ideas are good, we'll change stuff. But, you know, coming up to someone's property is can be a little threatening.
Defense fucking base, and I bought a doorstop so that I live like a quarter mile from his studio because I moved to Texas for this job, and he's just texted me footage of like one of the most traumatic experiences of my life, right? So you can go ahead and say that I am like, you know, irrational and insane, but like, you know, at that time in my life, I was freaking the fuck out, right? I know that sounds paranoid, but in that moment, I did not feel safe. Receiving that video and watching it back made me feel like my sense of security had been fundamentally violated. The next morning, I received an email from Caleb where he explained that he just sent me the video by mistake. Since I was in the video, he got confused. He informed me that he had intended to send the video to Robert instead for Robert's records. I'm only going to make this video one time, and I'm going to do a good job. I've outlined the major story. There's so many individual stories I could have put in this video that I decided not to, and the only way to do it is with something like this, and I'm going to tell you the whole story of my engagement with Caleb Hammer since the beginning. I don't want to make this video. I really don't. That said, I realized eventually that I have to. I had to make this video because I can't get this fucking shit out of my brain. The reason why I'm making this video is so that I can try to achieve something similar to closure. I think about this situation every single day. There's 8 acts here. We're going to go through each one. Tab out if you...
Just find me insane if you want me to. I think about this every single hour of every day. Yeah, you're a little crazy, dude.
Like, go play a video game, throw it on in the background, go for a drive. I don't care. Act 1, here we go. For the past 2 weeks, I've been trying to turn the most traumatic story of my life into a television show. I have tried to make this video many times. One of the renditions was me trying to cut this situation. I gave a down-the-barrel monologue about this situation. I give an angry monologue in the woods, okay? And then that is a part of this, like, 3-act structure comedy show, like, television show pilot that I was trying to cut. And so, like, for the past 3 weeks or so, I've been trying to take that monologue where I'm so angry and trying to cut it into this, like, funny television shows type thing about my life. And it's driven me insane, right? Like, trying to make the most traumatic story of my life into a television show has actually genuinely driven me nuts. And I've been sitting here for, like, 3 weeks, staring at my computer, trying to get this right, asking myself, why isn't this right? Why isn't this right? Why isn't this right? And the reason why it's not right is because when something horrible happens to you, hi, Macho. I'm watching back the footage of what I made, right? I'm watching back the edit, and I just realized to myself, there's no possible way that I can sit. After 3 weeks, I sit there and I realize there's no way I can cut this together in a way that people are going to understand that, like, the anger that I'm experiencing in this monologue as I give it down the barrel of this camera. They're never going to understand why I am this rightfully angry. This will not play how I want it to play, right? And so instead, what I ultimately decided is that I needed to make this video where I just tell you all of this information down the barrel of the camera. We're going to start at the beginning. This is a whole story. This is my whole arc with Caleb Hammer. I'm only going to make this once, so we're starting way back where I want to. I built a marketing agency, right? I quit my cushy job at a marketing agency to build my own. Previously in my life, I'd squirreled away $10,000. I'd listened to hundreds of hours of the Dave Ramsey Show and squirreled away $10,000. I was overweight and I didn't really like my life and I didn't like my job, right? I had moved to Atlanta a few years prior, probably 4 years prior, to try to make it in the entertainment industry, and I was working some senior living marketing job. My parents, they didn't really understand why I'd moved away. Life savings, and I quit my job to build my pick up where Oscar and I had left off. But I was too afraid to and I really failed.
But isn't it kind of normal to not make your... But isn't it kind of normal to not make money your first year, like, in a business? Like, even... Because I'm sure that if he spent $10,000 on it, and him and his partner took, like, you know, basically nothing that year. Because, unfortunately, as the boss, you're kind of the last one to get paid, which I would assume he would have started out with him and whoever he said his partner was, and it'd just be them two running it and doing everything, because you don't want to just start hiring people left and right when you're just doing a startup. So just having them two people, I mean, that's $10,000 go into the next year to kind of give you like a cushion. And if you're doing a marketing agency, you might need like Photoshop or like just like any Adobe products, or maybe even work with like AI stuff, or I don't know if they're doing video promotion, like photography stuff. I'm sure it's kind of all of the above and just everywhere. But yeah, I would think that would set you out well for the next year to pay for all of your like expenses and stuff. And then if you're making $20,000 your first year, you're probably, I would assume at least you're probably going to make 20 the next year if you're starting off that chunky.
During this time, though, like, I had met this person that I still really care about, a close friend of mine. I had met this person that I still really care about, a close friend of mine. And she told me once, she goes, why don't you just work for a YouTuber, right? Like, this marketing agency doesn't seem to be what you're passionate about. Like, you know more about YouTube and you make better videos than, like, most of the people I've ever seen. So, like, why don't you just go work for a YouTuber, right? And that really blew my fucking mind wide open, because it's like, oh, holy shit, like, that is such a simple solution and you are so correct. Yes, let's do that. So I jump on YouTube and I find the next week, Caleb Hammer has posted this job ad. We're hiring a junior producer. And I'm thinking to myself, let's go get it, So I'm like, great, this is my shot. I make my application video. I pour over that video, like, for 10 days, I fucking work my ass off on that video, right? As I'm making that video, there's a segment at the end where I talk about how his show is this positive transformational force for good, right? People come on his show when it changes their lives, right? And I was really, really excited to work at a business where people's lives were, that was like personal transformation. That was like what we were going to be doing, right? And I remember trying to find B-roll for that section. Up to this point, I'd only really consumed Caleb from TikTok and from YouTube Shorts, but I'd consumed so much Dave Ramsey that I kind of was like, oh, they're probably like similar, right? Like, this is Dave Ramsey, but he's holding people accountable with tough love. That's like how I thought about it, but it's pretty funny to watch, right? And so as I'm trying to like put together this like, voiceover section of like, oh, your show changed.
Yes, because it's entertainment. He's trying to make money and not just, make this a hobby, but make it a career. But also, he does seem to, like, want to try to help people. I mean, he has, like, on follow-up shows been like, oh, you're making lots of progress. Like, here, let me just give you, or let me pay off this or whatever. I mean, even someone who's kind of threatened him, which is Brent Davier, that's how Caleb felt, I'll say. I think, what was it, $4,000 that he gave him for, like, rent and stuff like that. And it's like, so obviously he does care somewhat.
All these people's lives. I was really struggling to find clips of Caleb changing anybody's life. Instead, I just found people crying. I found a lot of people crying. I found a lot of like Caleb making funny faces to the camera, but I didn't find.
Which is, yeah, what you're going to see, because people are getting confronted. And I don't know of anyone who likes getting confronted on stuff that you're doing wrong in life. Like, that's not any fun. Like, yeah, you're going to push back. You're probably going to cry. Excuse me. You're probably going to cry and stuff like that. So it's, yeah, I don't know. It just seems like a normal reaction from pushback. And I think with the follow-up channels, you do get to see a little bit more of the, I guess, humanity side of Caleb, of just like, okay, I get tough love, but hey, you're working this out now. You're doing this X, Y, and Z now. Like, good job. Like, let's keep encouraging you.
The transformational stuff that I was talking about in my voiceover that I had originally written. But you know what? The video was almost done at that point, so it's like, okay, fuck it, ship it, like, like red flags, sunk cost, fuck it, like, let's keep moving. What I realize now is, like, wasn't concerned with transformation, right? Was concerned with humiliation, right? That had been the playbook since day one, and I was not aware of it, right? That's why I bring that up. So whatever, I finish the video, I post the video, and then within 2 hours, Caleb calls me on my cell phone. I lose my mind over the first call. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited, right? I am so fucking over the moon excited. We do 2 interviews, right? We do 2 interviews. First, so I do an interview with her, then I do an interview, second round interview with her and Caleb, right? I nail both of them because, like, I know my shit, and I remember this part. I'm pretty sure there's a paper trail that backs this up, but, like, let me just go ahead and cover my ass and say that this is the impression that I was left with. The impression that I was left with was that I wasn't sure if I had gotten the job, right? They had kind of, like, alluded to the end of that meeting that I had received the job, but, like, I remember not being sure that I had the job until I got a call from Caleb that he was at a Best Buy, and he was going to buy me AirPods, right? He was going to buy me AirPods 2, or the fancy ones that, like, were really nice, and I remember that phone call was, like, confirmed to me that I had the job. I had asked them, so I was like, hey, can you send me the job offer, right? Send me the job offer, because A, I have to go get an apartment, and B, like, I'm going to move all my shit across the country, right? I need a fucking job offer, so send me the offer. And they told me that they would, but then they're like, well, we're super busy, so, like, we'll get to it eventually. I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to move all my shit across the country. You want me to do this on, like, a hope and a prayer that you tell me that there's a job there with no formal offer? What the fuck? But,
Then why would you move down there? I mean, seriously, like, why would you pack up all your stuff and just move?
I don't want to rock the boat. There was Moby Dick, right? There was a giant whale in the ocean, and I had...
Also, I will say, if you've ever looked at the YouTube editing and stuff, and like, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm kind of sick, so the sniffling is just going to be what's happening. But if you've ever looked at, like, thumbnail making or whatever, like, people's ads and stuff like that are not, like, you can tell no one's ever really run a business or whatever, because it's not organized. Like, the way they write stuff, it's like, it seems super sketchy. I think one of oh, I don't know if I'm like writing a job, someone to, do a job interview or my future girlfriend. And I'm like, weird. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. I will say Caleb's way of approaching it on YouTube is probably the most professional that I've seen on YouTube. And yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of criticisms that he probably could have made stuff better, because it seems like maybe this is his first like business, because I think he said he was like in sales beforehand or something like that. So yeah, so it's probably not perfect, but I will say it's a lot better than what I've seen on YouTube for that.
Made my casting video, right? My application casting video, right? My application video, and I threw my harpoon at the whale, and the whale reeled me in, right? I wasn't about to be like, hey, like what the fuck, whale? Where's my offer letter? And instead, the whale called me and he said, I'm gonna buy you AirPods. And I said, oh, okay, cool, right? Thinking nothing of it. Right now, in hindsight, I look at that story and I think to myself, wow, instead of like transparency and a job offer, instead it's like, hey, like come to Texas, get your AirPods, right? Like, that's fucking weird. A little bit of an aside, one of my friends, Emily, is a therapist, and she talks to me. We've really explored recently how this is very exposing. Here we go. My entire life, I've been like very ADHD. I've dealt with loneliness my whole life, right? I felt like people don't understand very high level, right? And so that's very deeply concerning to me. And so like the way I've coped with that, there's like 4 ways to cope with trauma, I think. There's like fight, flight, or freeze, and then there's a 4th one called fawn.
Wait, so is he comparing him not being close to people to trauma? Because like, I mean, when they diagnosed me, they had it was under ADHD and ADD, and now I think it's all under ADHD, which doesn't make sense, because the whole point of distinguishing the two is one is more hyperactive than the other. So they originally, when I was a kid, they diagnosed me with ADD, not ADHD, because I wasn't, like, I was hyper like a normal kid. I wasn't more hyper than other kids. And I mean, I don't know if it's because of my ADD, but I have a problem with, I would say, connecting with people, but I'm very introverted, and it takes me a while to get a read of people. And so I usually just kind of sit back and watch, and I kind of read people and be like, okay, like I can have these types of conversations, because people have different interests and stuff like that. So I know, I like to sit back and watch and see like what they're interested in, so I can talk about I can talk about what they're interested in and stuff like that. And I'm very terrible, like if I move away somewhere or if I do whatever, I'm really bad at keeping up, connecting with people. Like I know other ADD people that are very extroverted, that like every time I bring them around anywhere, they're like, they just connect with everyone, and I'm like, I don't understand that. Like I don't know how you do that. Like I guess it's just my personality. I don't know. I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm traumatized because of that. Like, I don't have any trauma from ADD. I don't have any trauma from dyslexia. Like, it just is what it is, and you have to figure out how to cope with it, because your brain works different than everyone else's. It is what it is.
And so fawn is the one that I typically use. Fawn is like this obsession with like escapism. Okay, so like when you're fawning over something, you can fawn over a book or a movie or a person or a celebrity, right? And so this is the one that I've typically used, right? So essentially, like whenever I felt like negative emotion in my life, I typically gravitate towards fawning over like media. And so that makes it so that like I am like hyper excited by like people with online fame, right? And I didn't understand at the beginning of all of this how prone that makes me to manipulation. I didn't understand that makes me like a big juicy target, right? Now I understand. Now I get it. So that's fun. Here's a fun tip. If you obsess over escapism or online celebrity, you should look into fawning and see if you fit the bill for someone who fawns. Because like if you...
I would think fawning would be like deer in headlights, but like freezing, but okay. Whatever, we'll go with his explanation, because I don't know. But it's just like, what is happening? Okay.
You are that, and then you someday meet those people, you will be prone to manipulation by those people, okay?
And I feel like a lot of people, like, oh, what's his name? It's the new mayor of New York. Asked him, like, as he's Donald Trump and stuff, and you could tell he was very uncomfortable answering that, even though he's been very open about really disliking Trump. And I would say probably even, maybe not directly calling him a fascist, but heavily implying from kind of and you can like, I don't want to do, which I feel like that's like a lot of people, whether they like that celebrity or not, they kind of, if you want to call it fawning over them, I feel like it's common with almost everyone. It's just kind of fortunate or unfortunate nature, and we kind of see that. I mean, you see that in pop culture all the time, of people just like massive crowds, like, following Mr. Beast or following Johnny Depp or following whoever. It just kind of happens once you get kind of popular. Everyone just kind of starts, I don't know, like dogpiling all over, almost like, oh my goodness, look, it's this person.
So you should look into funding, and you should try to figure out how to cope with it in a way that's not going to ruin your life. Cool. Anyway, Caleb Hammer calls me. We go back forth emails multiple weeks. They have tons and tons of opportunities to send me a job offer, but you know what? They can't figure it out. You should try to figure out how to cope with it in a way that's not going to ruin your life. Cool. Anyway, Caleb Hammer calls me. I still don't, like, we go back forth, emails. It's like multiple weeks. They have tons and tons of opportunity to send me a job offer, but you know what? They can't figure it out. They can't figure it out. They can't figure out how to send me a job offer before I move all my shit. I was staying in New York, but I had to move all my shit from Atlanta down to Austin, right? So I drove from New York. In the course of like a 2-week period, I drove from New York like 16 hours down to Atlanta. Then I packed up all my shit in less than a week, and I moved all my shit and moved out of my apartment from Atlanta across the country to Austin. I felt like I was living inside of a dream. People don't understand that, like, it felt like I was in a dream sequence, right? Like, I had posted this video, my application video. I posted that publicly to my social media. I posted it on Facebook. I posted it on Instagram. I posted it on YouTube, right? Everyone in my network kind of knew I had kind of gotten discovered and moved all my shit across the country. For the first time in my life, people actually started to respect me. Instead of like, oh, that's Noah, I don't know what he's doing, but he literally likes videos, and sometimes he'll make something that's like
I don't think I would move 3 hours away if someone didn't give me like an official, like, you are hired, let alone states away.
funny, but a lot of times it's cringe as hell. For the first time in my life, a lot of those people started to respect me for the first time, and that was very, very, very nice, right? A couple weeks in, like, I'm working really, really hard. I remember talking to my father, and my father...
Can I just say something random? But like the way the camera's moving around, like, I know it's one of those, like, my dad has that, but he'll do it on FaceTime, and it annoys the crap out of me because it'll just randomly decide to focus on something, and it's like, it's just not very good. And the fact that he's using it like on, it's just annoying.
Really truly did start to respect me for the first time. He started to understand, right? He started to understand that there was real money in the industry that I had like focused in, right? Because he didn't get it for the longest time. He did not understand. I finally had my father's approval, and people don't understand how powerful those forces are. People don't understand how that locks you in. That locks you into being railroaded subconsciously into behavior. I just know at that time.
I don't think a lot of people understand YouTube, to be fair, and it takes sometimes a super long time to get monetized or to make any money. I mean, even I was looking at his. I didn't realize this was posted like 5 months ago. I thought it was posted like a week ago or something. But looking at his other videos, I think it was like he had like 100 views. Actually, let's look at it. Let's see if I can just pull up his YouTube. Nope, not shorts. Okay. So that's the video that we're watching, the 77. I mean, right after, he's going down to like 2,600, 187 views, 257. I mean, I know I can't talk because I'm a super small channel. But, like, I mean, he's got 2K, too. So it's like, it's not great. He's not making a lot of money. He's definitely probably have to have, like, a side job or something like that as well. So, yeah, like, it's hard to make a livable income unless have been doing it for, like, 10 years. And then all of a sudden you just start making income, and people just seem to start kind of raking it in at that point because they're making an income. It looks like maybe the algorithm's caught up to figuring out what this person's actually doing with their content, or people are interested in like sharing it with others, word of mouth, whatever. Maybe your thumbnails have changed, your titles have changed to be more captivating, to get people to click on it more, whatever it may be. And then it's like, okay, yeah, now you're making money, now you're doing this. Like, it takes a long time on YouTube to get settled in. You've got to lock in. I mean, with any business, but this is usually not something people just drop everything and just go, I'm just going to be a YouTuber, and that's going to be my business. And usually people are doing side jobs. Some people are like working on cars, like videoing themselves, like that's their actual like business or side job or whatever. And then YouTube's just like extra income. I mean, for a lot of people, YouTube's just extra income. So, and it can be very good income too.
I really loved the story that was being written. Swept away to adventure, to go reinvent yourself after being discovered by this extremely successful person who's having a meteoric rise. It was a beautiful story, and I got to be the star of it. So cool, I arrive on my first day. Sit down, here's your job offer, sign the letter. And I immediately am like, that's kind of weird, because I've been asking for this for weeks, and now on like one of my first days, like, you immediately have this, and now I'm being like pressured to sign it. That's weird. By the way, also, if you're a lawyer or someone else, like, send me an email. If you have anything to say about this situation.
So, I mean, if that's what they're wanting, maybe like signature or something like that, like maybe be like, hey, I'm going to be in the Texas area. Like, if you're searching for apartment, like, hey, I'm going to be in the Texas area, whatever. Like, looking at apartments and stuff like that. And, I mean, when my boss first called me, he was like, you realize you applied, like, states away from where you live, right? Because he was able to look at my resume. And I was like, yes. I was like, I do understand where I've applied. Like, I've actually been wanting to move down here for years now. And I happen to be actually in that state at that time because I think it was someone's wedding, or there was some event happening that I got to go down and see, but I don't remember what exactly was happening. either way, I got to be down there, and I was like, I mean, I can meet you tomorrow. And he was like, what? And I was like, I'm actually in town. I'm like just one town over. Like, I'm hanging out with my friends, and you know, just being able to do like an event. And he was like, oh, okay. And then he like, I didn't really have to like sign anything because everything through the mail stuff is all kind of online. But yeah, like I was able to meet with him and be like, all right, this is, and he's like, basically, this is gonna be what you're gonna be doing. I was like, oh, okay, you know, cool. So, I mean, he could have like contacted them and been like, hey, like, because I'm assuming he probably went down there before he moved up all of this stuff and was like at least looking at apartments or whatever.
You want to help me in any way at all, send me an email, contact@noahchrysler.com, because I'm terrified. But you know, I've read so much about this that like I know that like there's calculated risk here, and I've heard that like if I just tell the truth and I just focus on telling the truth and articulating the truth as highly as I can, right, with verifiable facts, then I'm probably okay. So that's what I'm going to try to do.
I would doubt that. There's a lot of people that get sued that tell the truth on stuff, but since they don't say like alleged or whatever like that, they get a lawsuit against them.
Cool, whatever.
You may win the
letter,
lawsuit.
I sign the offer.
But...
Cool. I take a bunch of pictures with Caleb Hammer. It's my first couple days there. I'm literally freaking out. I'm like, oh my god, I'm living in a dream. Holy shit. Cool. A couple days go by. Caleb has this idea. Graham Stephan's coming into town. Hey Noah, I know this is weird, but like Graham's coming into town. We should do something fun and special for Graham coming into town. What if we audited you? I immediately go, no, nope. The reason why I originally said no was because I had just dealt with the trauma of I'd worked for years trying to build my own marketing agency, and then it failed, and then so I had to go lick my wounds by going to work for another agency. And I was working for that agency for 3 months, and then at my 90-day review, after I met all of the outrageous goals that these people had set for me, at my 90-day review, they had made a decision to terminate me and let me go, right? Because they had lost this big client in a situation that I believe had nothing to do with me. But whatever. They lose this big client, and I'm let go of that job at my 90-day review. And that situation was so deeply tied to my finances that it was like there's no possible way that we could avoid talking about that if I was on financial audit. So I think about all of this, and then I eventually go to Caleb, and I'm like, or I go to Clara actually, and I tell Clara, I'm like, Clara, like the reason why I'm so hesitant to do this is because in my application video, I don't get into about how I worked for 90 days.
I don't understand why he's like bleeping some names, but he's not bleeping others, because I think that's the same person that he was possibly trying to mention earlier and bleeped out.
Previous job, and then they let me go. And we didn't really talk about it in my interview because like you guys didn't really probe on that at all. I'm very reluctant to talk about any of this because like how uncomfortable would it be for me to reveal that information to my employer like on his fucking talk show in front of all those people, especially in front of Graham Stephan. But anyway, whatever. Eventually I think to myself, okay, I've just moved my life across the country. I'm already committed to this, pot committed. Do it for the plot, right? Do it for the story, right? And also I think to myself, if I'm going to be recruiting people to go on this show, the most powerful thing that I can do is believe in this show. I don't know if you know about sales, but like when you're selling something and you believe in the product, it's way easier to sell the thing. If I'm going to be recruiting for this show, I might as well fucking go on the show myself, see what it's all about, right? Like, is this actually going to help me? Because if it actually helps me, then like it's going to make my job super easy to go recruit for this show. So I go on the show. I agree to go on the show. Now, I will say, this was consensual, right? This was something that I agreed to do. I agreed to go on that show. That was on me. I will say that, like, it should have been done more intentionally, right? Like, we should have gone in with a plan. There was no plan. It was the camera's on. Let's go. So we filmed that audit. I didn't sleep at all the night before because I was freaking out. Because my greatest shame, the debt that I had, my greatest shame was going to be paraded in front of all of these people that don't want the best for me. I go on the show.
But you agreed to it, and you knew that, like, there's gonna be, like, bad comments. Like, you do YouTube now, there's gonna be bad comments, there's gonna be reaction channels that are not so kind to you. If you're on the internet posting things, you just have to expect that. Or if you're a part of something that gets posted on the internet, you just have to expect that, especially with someone with such a large platform.
I do the show, I get no sleep. Between not having any sleep and being so starstruck by, like, I'm sitting across from Graham Stephan, who I've watched for years, right? I'm sitting across from Caleb Hammer, who has recently decided to completely transform my life, right? I'm sitting across from these two people as they're digging through my greatest shame and having to explain myself on no sleep. It was fucking crazy. Like, people don't get it. In a city where I know nobody, in a city where I've, like, completely isolated myself from any support network, I'm suddenly just, like, in it now. So I do that. There's even a clip that I recorded after I went on the show. I originally was so excited. I was so excited. I'm thinking to myself, like, man, there's a lot of moments in this conversation where I'm like legitimately funny or interesting or I have interesting insights. And so there's going to be people in Caleb's audience that are going to be like, hey, this guy's actually fucking cool, right? At this point, I had made videos for a decade and nobody had actually recognized me at all. And look, like, I consented to all of this, right? I consented to all of this, but like, I look back on that situation and I just think to myself, like, wow, like, what a ham-fisted way to handle that situation. Clearly, there should have been like an adult in the room that's like, hey, like, this guy is clearly like emotionally compromised, right? Like, he's clearly being swept up by fame and agreeing to things that he probably shouldn't, that are probably not in his best interest. And so, like, let's at least do this with some sort of intent.
Yeah, but he probably this, and originally you said no, and then you decided to say yes, so you consented to it. And just, I mean, I watched his financial audit, and I don't remember, like they just seemed like they were just joking around. Like, yes, he seemed really nervous, but he didn't seem like he was, like, emotionally compromised. Like, he was like having some mental breakdown where it was like clearly like, oh, this is not an okay situation. It was just like, okay, yeah, he's super nervous. Like he's probably used to being behind that, being in front of the camera. And I like being in the camera because I love doing photography. Heck, I try to sell my photography. Like, you know, like and then when people videos for the camera, like if you look at my animation channel, I make a lot of videos when I'm hiking, but I don't include anything. Well, one, because I'm faceless, but two, because I don't like being in front of the camera. Like I just don't. I put JD in front of the camera. I force him to be in front of the camera. A dog. Oh my goodness. No. He loves the camera. He does. You can just tell but two, because I don't like being in front of the camera. Like I just don't. I put JD in front of the camera. I force him to be in front of the camera. A dog. Oh my goodness. No. He loves the camera. He does. You can just tell he struts his stuff. It is what it is. But if you know you're not comfortable in being in front of the camera, as I feel like maybe most marketing people are, or people who do videography, you know what I'm trying to say. Good Lord, it's late. Or photography or whatever. Like you like staging, you like setting up, whether it be people or nature or whatever, like you like setting up the perfect scene to take the perfect photo. You don't want to be part of the perfect photo. You don't want to be like, you don't want to have your face in there. Like if you know you're uncomfortable with it or whatever, you could have just said no, and just like, if they ask again, and be like, dude, I said no, like back off. Like that might be not the most way to do it, but just nicely be like, hey, like I've already established boundaries, please, I would appreciate it if you respected that. Like I understand that you really want me there, but I really don't feel comfortable. I really don't feel comfortable in front of a camera. You don't have to explain everything, but get the point across of you're really not that comfortable.
Do this carefully so that this person doesn't grow to regret this. Now, in hindsight, I wish that had existed and it didn't. But whatever, I went on the show and I'm proud. It was brave as fuck. I don't care what you say. It was brave as fuck for me to do that. Like, you can be like, is it or is he brave? Well, let's not split hairs.
I mean, yeah, you are brave because you're literally showing your finances to the entire world. So, yes. That's not usually something that people just talk about up front, or at least I'm very private about that kind of stuff, so I don't like to talk about this stuff in front of people, so.
Right, he's a little bit of both. This video is also that, I hope. I hope this video is like, is he dumb as hell or is he brave as fuck? Pick one. I don't know. Cool, I go on the show, whatever. The reality behind the scenes, when I was originally hired, I was the lowest on the totem pole. I don't think I'd ever managed anybody before, but for the first couple of weeks, as I was like, they were saying jump and I was saying how high, right? Like that was like when our relationship was decent. For those first couple of weeks, right, I had gotten an apartment that was less than a mile from the studio so that I could just focus on putting all of my time in at the studio. I have a dog, and so like I wanted to make sure that I could, if I needed to let my dog out, I could go let my dog out, and then I could go back to work so that I could really just focus all of my time doing this. If you talk to my parents at this time, this is when my dad truly started to respect me because my dad is an entrepreneur, and when he was building his business, he was working 80-hour weeks every single week. And so he saw the level that I was grinding at this, right? And he began to truly respect me. And I think everybody at that company started to truly respect me too, as they saw the dedication that I was bringing to my work on the show. Every week we would try to film 4 episodes, right? And at the beginning of my employment, before I communicated that it was an absolutely unrealistic amount of work, I was responsible for preparing all of the finances for everybody for every single episode. For the first week, that was the plan, was to have me just prepare everything as well.
I mean, if you're getting paid hourly, or even salary, and they're like, hey, this is like what you're expected to work is between, maybe like 40 to 50 hours, like whatever, a week. It's kind of like, if you're pushing 60, then like, yeah, I'll be like, hey, like this is a little bit unrealistic because I'm pushing 60 hours a week instead of 40 to 50. It's like, can I cut that back, or can, maybe someone pick up the slack a little bit from me because I'm a little bit swamped over here, and then like once I get kind of settled down, I can take that back, and then if someone else ever needs help, I can help them. Like, work as a team.
Let's do all of guest coordination, all casting. So I was going to do essentially all of the casting as well as all of the document preparation and all of the budgeting for these people before they got on the show, right? So I would go through their statements line by line.
Which he's a small business,
right? And
so
I would make these
he only
budgets
has
for
a couple
them,
of people
and then I would also be on the phone, constantly calling people on the phone, literally every single day, right? My day was call people on the phone, right, to cast people for the show, and then do finances, right? And I was busting my ass, right? It was such a ridiculous amount of work that there was no possible way I could get it done within 40 hours a week. I was very locked in for the.
I mean, Kate was doing this at one time all by himself, and then I want to say it was like Brandon, or he hired someone to help him out, and it was like, okay, like now it's kind of divided between 2 people, and from what I understand, it's still super small, so yeah, you're gonna be taking on a lot.
First couple weeks, right, working a shit fuck load trying to get this show to happen. I eventually tell them like, hey, look, this is unsustainable, and I'm gonna freak the fuck out because it was ruining my life. I'm like, look, we need to build a casting system, and let me build a casting system, or I'm gonna lose my mind. Also, we need another hire to handle the numbers, because I'm gonna lose my mind if I have to do all of the casting and all of the numbers for every single one of these people. I'm gonna have a mental fucking breakdown. And so I was not met with support. I remember building the casting system.
Well, yeah, because that's probably what they hired you for. It's like, hey, you're going to be in charge of all this. Because what he said, he was like junior producer or something. So yeah, you're going to be calling people. You're going to be doing this. You're going to be doing that. Like you're going to be under a lot of people. And if you're not very good with stress, then I mean, it seems kind of like a stressful job of you're contacting a lot of people. You're trying to make sure everything's in order. You're trying to make sure everyone's doing their part of what, you know. Yeah, it's going to be a lot.
On my own time. I came in on the weekend. I came in on my birthday, actually. I was working on my birthday. I came in because I had no friends, right?
Again, a lot of people go on their birthday. If you don't want to work on your birthday, schedule it off like months ahead or a month ahead or whatever.
Yeah, I had no friends, and that's not their fault necessarily, right? But like I was just like, at this time in my life, like, you know, that's what I was doing, is I was just like constantly working for this fucking business. So I came in on my birthday and all these other weekends, and I fucking built them a casting system. And I built them a casting system that worked so well that it was undeniable, right? That was what I needed, because like this was not a tool that I was doing for a pat on the head. This was a tool that I was going to use to try to reduce my workload from 60, 80-hour weeks down to like a reasonable 40 hours, right? So this was a very important system to me. So I built out my casting system. That's when things started to change. I think everybody in the company eventually started to see the effect that I was having on the company as like numbers were going up. There was like a month where like every single video that we were producing was getting more and more views than the last one. At this time, I was very, very upset because like the audience was beginning to blame me for certain changes, and it felt to me
because of his views on YouTube for his own channel. But I mean, I could totally be wrong. It could have been really successful, but it's just one of those things of like you're trying to say like you're, what do they call it, like the best thing since sliced bread, but you're struggling in your own sense when you're trying to run your own business and you're trying to do everything yourself, editing, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of like, okay, so your channel's not doing too good, and you're trying to make it like you have the golden idea, I guess, or like the perfect way to run a business of a YouTube channel.
Like I was not allowed to tell the audience the changes that I was responsible for and the ones that I was not responsible for. My first ever cast of the show, I brought on this couple. During my original audit, I talked about how I thought what we were doing was essentially creating a millennial version of the Dave Ramsey Show. Dave Ramsey for Gen Alpha and Gen Z and millennials. Allowed to tell the audience the changes that I was responsible for and the ones that I was not responsible for. My first ever cast for the show, I brought on this couple. During my original audit, I talk about how I thought what we were doing was essentially creating a millennial version of the Dave Ramsey Show. Dave Ramsey for Gen Alpha and Gen Z and millennials. That's what I kind of thought we were doing. And so I remember casting this couple. I'm thinking to myself, great, this is going to be a very interesting episode. I've got this couple. I interviewed them over the phone a ton. I talked to them over the phone. These people are fun, right? They're outgoing, extroverted people who are constantly goofing around, right? They're both a little neurodivergent, but I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be a fun episode, right? Their finances aren't a complete and total dumpster fire, but like these are fun people who like are making mistakes, but who are trying to get better. And so I bring these people in and I put them on the show. This is my first ever cast. I'm full of fucking nerves, okay? For some reason during recording, Caleb is not bringing it, right? He's just like not there, right? At the beginning, he starts aggressive and he starts like, you know, he's locked in for a little bit, but like 10 minutes in, the steam just like melts out of the train. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like that sucks. Like, you know, I was so excited. The shoot ends eventually, you know, I handle thumbnails and stuff and we do off-ramp, off-boarding, I guess, and we say goodbye to these people. And I am pulled into an office to discuss the episode. And Caleb, in my opinion, from my recollection, I came away from this situation with a recollection and a feeling that I was afraid. I remember feeling fear. I remember feeling disillusionment because I started to realize like Caleb's main arguments boil down to this.
Someone's going to give you criticism the first time you do something because you're not going to be good at it or you're not going to see the vision of that company or whatever. And again, I don't know why he's bleeping someone's stuff out, but whatever.
He just hired me, right? He had taken all this financial risk on to hire me. His assumption was that the quality of the guests, his term for quality, right, was going to increase after he made this giant thing, right? And then he just went and did that conversation, and he realized that the quality of the guests that he was looking for, right, that was not being met. This was the first true understanding that I had of this. I thought we were making the Dave Ramsey Show. Debt-free scream, you know, Dave, help me out. I'm trying my best. Hey, that's okay. I'm old as hell. Here's some Southern wisdom about how to guide you across the finish line, right? That's not what we were doing. In my opinion, instead it became clear to me that like we were not looking for people that we could help. In my opinion, my job became find people who had negative marks on their report card so that Caleb could point them out to him on camera. You know, we need a report card filled with misbehavior so that like...
Well, the thing is his business is not only trying to help people, but it's also he needs to make sure that, you know, he has people employed. He has to make sure that he's making money. He's got to make sure that, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a YouTube video. So it's supposed to be, a lot of times it's supposed to be either entertaining or educational. And he's trying to go in kind of both directions, but he's not, I don't think he has any like certifications of like being a financial guru type thing. So he leans more on entertainment and then also just is like, well, spend less than you make. Like, don't spend more than you make.
They're making this fucking 90-minute shoot, which, by the way, they don't need to be 90 minutes, but okay, they're 90 minutes. And I didn't understand that. Until Caleb gave me the impression of somebody who was very angry and there was much volume. I think that's the appropriate way for me to say that. You know, when I first started working there, I was in this illusion. I really thought that what we were trying to do was build a modern version of the Dave Ramsey show. Say what you will about Dave Ramsey. I disagree with a fair amount of what Dave Ramsey says, but at the end of the day, I look at Dave Ramsey as the pinnacle of this industry. Dave Ramsey has done this for 50 years or close to it. He is the king of this space. People trust him. His foundation is an ethical bedrock. He points to the Bible. The borrower is slave to the lender. Spend less than you make. Those two things, those two values that Dave Ramsey has makes it so that every single episode of Dave Ramsey's show is at least somewhat valuable. His value system is based in the Bible, and therefore you can trust him. And people do. Like, you look at his empire.
Oh my goodness. Just because someone's a Christian doesn't mean they're a good person. Or say that they're a Christian doesn't mean that they're a good person. You see a lot of Christians who are not good people and who are not going to, even though they say they're Christians, are actually not going to go to heaven because of they don't actually have a relationship with God. They don't, they aren't doing, when God asks them to do something, they aren't actually doing that. I just hate this. Like, as a Christian, I hate when it's like other say oh, I'm Christian, so I have a perfect life now, and I'm so trustworthy, and look at me, and they put themselves on a pedestal, and then random people believe that and be like, oh yeah, so if I become Christian, everything's going to be hunky-dory and all this other stuff. And it's just it's still life. I mean, if you want to really understand, I guess I would say, Christianity, I would say just read the book of Job, because it shows God being you know what? Yeah, you're going to have a great afterlife because you're following me and you're doing all this, but that doesn't mean you're going to have a good life on this earth. You're still going to suffer. You're still going to have problems. You're still going to mess up, but I still love you. And it's just to act like someone's perfect just because they're a Christian or just because they're this or that. It's that's not how that works. Now, I do think Dave Ramsey probably has a good moral compass from what I've seen. He does seem like he actually does try to follow Christ and stuff like that, which is, again, a very good thing. But I wouldn't put him in an idol position like that. I wouldn't do that with anyone. He's still a human being. He's not Jesus.
Yeah, so I think his facility is worth $400 million, and it's paid for in cash. I looked up to Dave for a very long time, and I was excited to work with Millennial Dave. Living in this illusion. I was living this illusion that everyone loved this show. This show was built to help people with their finances, right? But yet I was speaking to one of the victims of this show. And that person had a very, very, very different view
the victims
of
the show.
I had just moved across the country for and stuck my reputation on the line for. In my outline here, it says I wasn't recruiting, I was hunting. Another thing that bothered me was that I wasn't aware if the audience understood what the fuck I was actually doing. I wasn't sure if they understood how predatory what my role ultimately was, right? Find someone who's going to make for good entertainment on this show. I wasn't aware of that. And then I would look in the vlog comments, because at this time we were making a vlog, and there was a lot of drama around the vlog. I didn't like the way Caleb would edit me in the vlog, right? And I would tell him that, and ultimately the vlog ended because I got so upset with it's Caleb, you're painting me out to be there was one specifically that stands out to me, and that is the conversation around Gia. The thing that bothered me with the vlog was that there was internal pressure put on to me that was implicit, but Caleb would, use the vlog. There's one moment in the vlog where I'm arguing about we need to film with Gia, because Gia had just driven across the country to be there, and although she was sick, right? What people don't see in the behind the scenes of that vlog was that Caleb, just a couple weeks prior, Caleb. So I wasn't a super huge fan of the vlog all the time. But around that time, I started looking at the comments on the vlog, and I would go out, sometimes the vlog would be about me going and looking and recruiting guests for the show. And in the comments, people would talk about the guests for the show, and they would refer to them as victims. They'd go, oh, Noah can search for victims at this place. That was the comment that really was seared into my brain. That's when I began to realize, even if I'm a nice guy, even if I'm a nice person that does care about and respect these people, I'm operating in a system where even people who are fans of this recognize that my role right now is to look for victims of this machine. That really fucked with me.
I really doubt the fans see them I'm a fan of his show, and I don't really see them as victims. I don't think people always, even though they warn them a million times, I don't think people always understand completely. Maybe the internet, to the extent of what YouTubers get for hate or whatever, but still, I don't know. It's just normal internet stuff. That doesn't make them. I wouldn't say that makes them a victim. I just think, it's just their first time experiencing people just being asses. I mean, when I worked in sales, people were just asses all the time. Now that I'm a male person, I don't have to deal with people as much. I still have to do. I got cussed at the other day because I couldn't fit all the packages in my truck. The first trip I had to take, which that really if I'm doing my job wrong, okay, fine. I'll take it on the chin. I'll fix it. I'll apologize. But when people just yell at me for no reason, that gets under my skin a lot. But again, even though I worked, sales, and I work now and sometimes still get cussed at, it's I'm not a victim. I don't have trauma with that. It's just I mean, people are just people, and you just have to understand, like, some people are just asses, and you just have to just let it go. And it is hard to let it go because you know you're not doing anything wrong and you're getting yelled at for literally nothing. But it's just it's a learning experience. It's not trauma. It's not victimhood. It's just a learning experience.
My opinion. There was also this implicit pressure that like you have to comply with. Implicit pressure that like you have to comply with Caleb's narrative, right? You have to comply with Caleb's narrative, in my opinion. So I couldn't jump into there and be like, hey, like, you know, it felt to me like I could not correct the public narrative about like, hey, like it's not okay to talk about these people like they're victims. If we're using the word victim when it comes to recruiting for the show, that's deeply fucked up, right? Like it felt like I wasn't allowed to say that. In my opinion, my role became to attract people to the show that were going to get the most views. We film an episode of the show. There's this person that comes into the studio, right? This is a young girl. She's less than 20 years old. I don't remember exactly how old she is, but she's like a real fan of the show. She's not from a casting website or anything. This is a real fan of this show that like really needs help. Her finances are kind of a mess, but like, you know, she's like kind of a kid, right? She lives with her parents. I remember she had this like cool car and stuff. She was like a character, right? She was fun, but she's a fan of the show, right? We come in, we do her episode. I remember there, you know, she was younger, right? So there wasn't like a big financial story there, but she fit the type of person that we assumed would get the most views, right? But the episode is like not great. I remember that the episode not being great because there wasn't a whole lot of substance because like she only had like, you know, a year or two of financial history where she was like on her own. She had a bad car loan. She had, you know, she didn't have any money. I don't think she had a job, right? But she fit the bill. So anyway, we go through this episode. This person's like 18, 19 years old. We get to the end and she recorded her episode and everything seemed fine. But after the camera stopped rolling, there was a thumbnail photo shoot session. That was normal. What wasn't normal was what I saw next. She was guided into poses that to me felt suggestive. More skin, more angles. It didn't make sense for a finance show. It didn't make sense for someone that young. And it definitely didn't make sense for someone.
Yeah, but don't they like kind of sign off on all that? Hey, this is okay for you to use this suggestive pose or whatever.
Who had just come in as a fan. I stood off to the side, chewing my nails, feeling sick to my stomach. She was barely out of high school, and I felt like the priority of the photo shoot had shifted from respecting.
And again, if she's barely out of high school, she's an adult. Like, she can make her own choices.
This young woman, to instead grabbing views. That was one of the moments where it kind of hit me. It didn't seem like this show was about helping people. It seemed like it might be about something else entirely. A similar situation with another guest also left a lasting impression on me. Caleb had met her at a party and invited her to be on the show. She was an exotic dancer, and when she arrived to the studio, something felt off almost immediately. I'm no medical professional, so I won't speculate, but she seemed deeply out of it. She had trouble focusing. The shoot had to end early because it became clear that she couldn't make it through the episode. Before filming, she changed into an extremely revealing outfit, one that left very little to the imagination. And once the cameras rolled, she spent most of the time quietly playing with Play-Doh, on camera, barely engaging with the financial conversation at all. At the time...
Yeah, if they realized that she was coming in high or coming in on drugs, yeah, maybe not the best choice for them to sit down and record, but at least they stopped early and were like, maybe not this. I don't remember anything ever being posted like that, but I'm also not like I do remember, I think it was like a short or something like that it was like a members only thing or something like that. And there was a girl that was super high and out of it. And then she'd be like, what did you just say? And he's like, oh Lord, like, oh gosh. And yeah, maybe that's not the best thing to record and post. I guess there could be moral dilemmas on that one.
It barely registered as weird to me. It was just another strange day in an already strange job. But looking back now, it's clear how far from normal things had gotten. There became a very big focus on the thumbnails, right? A lot of people blame me for the thumbnail changes. As a general rule, those thumbnail conversations happened as like a huge company-wide thing, right? Anytime I was in those rooms, I would try to give the guests informed consent of like, hey, like, you know, we're going to take some creative liberties and stuff. Like, we're going to make fun of you in the thumbnail and title, but like, we want you to be in on the joke, right? That was like my thing. Anytime we were doing thumbnails and titles, I would try to be more funny than I was rude. I recognize now that like I was in an environment where like that strategy is like fundamentally not going to succeed. Then when people started to blame me for the more aggressive direction of the thumbnails and titles and Caleb wasn't correcting them, I realized that I was being scapegoated for the direction of the channel. Caleb is screaming more. These thumbnails and titles are egregious and horrible, right? When did this change happen? Well, the big pivot of the channel was when Noah was hired. So let's blame Noah, you know, through no fault of their own. Like, they didn't know any better, right? And so that deeply didn't sit right with me. In my opinion, Caleb began to see my role for the company, not as like a builder, not as like someone who was helping him make millions and millions of dollars. My role in the company was Caleb's garbage man. That's ultimately what I realized my responsibility was.
I mean, I guess people know some of the people that work there just because like they do show up in the videos sometimes. But ultimately, I would assume Caleb, since it's his business, makes the decision. So I don't really see why people would actually point fingers at you. I don't know. Could have happened. I don't know. But that doesn't seem realistic.
My opinion was that I was Caleb's social garbage man. So like, here's how a typical week would go, right? We would have 4 guests a week, just about, or we would try to hit that, right? I would be ridden, my ass would be ridden until I alone casted 4 people a week. And if those people were not in Caleb's ideal guest archetype, I would be like, you know, reprimanded. And we would film 4 episodes a week. And what I found was that usually about 1 out of the 4 guests that we filmed with every week, they were so fucking pissed off because they came in thinking Dave Ramsey and they left realizing that they just went on like the Jerry Springer show. I eventually implemented policies to try to protect myself where it's like,
I mean, by the time you got hired, I would assume. I don't remember when he said he got. I feel like he said when he got hired, and I don't remember. But like, they could watch old content before they came on. I mean, I would assume you would do at least a little bit of research of like maybe watching old content or whatever to understand what the show's really about.
Have the guests use fake names, right? That was my policy that I really, really strongly pushed for, because it's like there's no upside to them using their real names and like actually just like tanking their public reputation. Why are they doing that? Why has this not been implemented like fucking a year ago? In my opinion, the show is disgusting. Like why would we have these people actually share their real information with the world as they're like doing character assassination kamikaze attempts, right? Like that's fucking crazy. So in an attempt to cover my ass, you know, it's like, hey, let's use fake names. You know, I had Caleb do the onboarding video, right? I wrote the script for the onboarding video, but like in my opinion, it seemed to me like it's like double speak. What I was trying to do was have like a high degree of transparency, and instead. That said, like, you know, that video is an attempt at transparency, but like I think that the ultimate goal of that video was that it gave more it allowed the audience believes that like everything is totally transparent and above board because we made this video. Anyway, once a week a guest would leave our studio, or their thing would be posted, and this person would be so fucking pissed off. They were ready to either sue or come after us or fucking do some crazy shit, in my opinion. And so what I realized was, is like, I'm the garbage man, right? Like people, it was so funny to me. The frame was Caleb and are so introverted that they just can't handle any sort of like communication with the guest because they're very, very introverted. And so like I became the point of contact with.
That doesn't. I mean, yeah, I think Caleb's probably introverted, but since he's done sales and stuff like that in the past, I doubt he has a problem talking to guests. Like he talks to them and confronts them face to face. I mean, he did that with Brent Davey too. I mean, that's a great example. Like they got him back on, and they were. I mean, the whole second episode was just basically confrontation.
All the guests. I had my cell phone. I was deeply afraid. There was this one specific app that we would use for guest communication. I remember being so fucking afraid of that app on my phone. I would constantly live in fear. You know, I would get text messages on Sunday or like Saturday night at 11 o'clock from people who are so deeply furious, people who have mental health conditions, all sorts of different people. The guests of the show,
then turn
you
your
know, would
phone
reach out to me and they'd
off.
be like, hey, this fucked up thing happened as a result of me coming on the show. What the fuck? Just like constant.
Yeah, put your phone on silent, but turn your phone off. Like everyone needs a detox from work, and if you're in that kind of position, which like as a person who is in sales, like yeah, it feels like you're at work all the time, and you have to have that work-life balance because you're gonna go crazy otherwise. I mean, YouTubers talk about this like all the time. I was watching an Anthony Padilla video with Nextaku, and they were like, the worst thing about, you know, they're like, it's the easiest job, but it's the worst job because you're thinking about it all the time. And it's like, yeah, even if you have a business, even if you have a YouTube channel, whatever you want to call it, like you have to have some sort of break where it's just like hands off, you know, from, I don't know, maybe like 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., you know, like, so you have a few hours of detox, and then it's like, okay, you go to bed and you wake up and then you start all over again or whatever.
Constant PR nightmares, in my opinion. Situations that Caleb himself, in my opinion, that then were put onto me to solve. That alone was so
he says, in my opinion, after something he believed out. Okay.
psychologically
Weird.
difficult
Strange.
to handle, because the expectation was, it's like, no matter what time of day, if somebody decides to text you with a problem, you jump on it right then, because they could be a potential PR nightmare if they fucking blow up, right? So if they blow up and they blow the fucking roof off of this fucking thing, my job ends, my reputation ends, right? I'm suddenly a part of this fucking machine, right? So if one of these fucking people nukes this, my ass is on the line, right? So it doesn't matter if it's 10 p.m. on a fucking Thursday, I have to defuse the bomb, right? And then I frantically text Caleb every single time one of these fucking bombs comes. And so the whole time, I'm begging. I'm like, Caleb, we have to treat these people with respect. We have to offer some level of baseline respect to these people, right? Because like I can't be in a system where I'm the garbage man. Because once a week, one of these motherfuckers is furious, right? In my opinion, we're building a system that is, in my opinion, by definition, unsustainable. If like one,
I mean, again, you're a producer. You're like a manager. Like you're gonna get people calling you and complaining, and like that's just gonna be, fortunately or unfortunately, that's gonna be your job. And it just kind of seems like he just can't handle that. And I think the lesson that he should take of that is, okay, I really like doing this type of, I don't like doing managing. Maybe I take a lower totem pole position, or I can still do, I don't know, like marketing of stuff or whatever, but I don't have to worry about, you know, being as customer interaction heavy. I mean, instead of being like, I have trauma now, it's like situation, realize I took this job, you know, this happened, like, and what, I'm not great at maybe working with people or having a job like that where I feel like I'm working 24/7, like have to have my phone on me 24/7. Like some people just can't deal with that stress, and that's fine. But you shouldn't be like, oh, I have trauma from that. It's like, okay, I lived and I learned. I can't do that type of job. It is what it is. Move on. go to a different job, learn from that experience, and do a different job, and be like, okay, I need to make sure that ones that I apply to, it's like this is the type of job that I'm looking for, not this type of job that I just got laid off from just because I just couldn't handle it anymore. Like, it was driving me insane.
Erratic person is added to pile every single week, and I'm supposed to deal with that, right? Eventually, like, this is going to pop. Eventually, this bubble is going to pop. So we need to create a system every single week, and I'm supposed to deal with that, right? Eventually, like, this is going to pop. Eventually, this bubble is going to pop. So we need to create a system where people don't get fucked by this machine. I would march into that office and I would beg those motherfuckers. I'd say, hey, we need values. What are our values? And the reason why I would beg for that is because I wanted stuff that showed transparency. I couldn't sleep with what we were doing, in my opinion, right? Like, we were so fucked. What we were doing was so fucked, in my opinion. It was so fucked to me that I needed something to prove to myself that, like, what we were doing was on some way ethical, right? And so I'm like, hey, can we write some fucking values? Can we paste them to the wall? Can we put them in the fucking, like, waiting room? Like, let's fucking write about our values. And in my opinion, these motherfuckers would make fun of me. They would make fun of me. You know, they'd be like, well, we have 3 values, you know, because at the beginning, I got them to write down some values, right? The values were that I would beg him to get fucking certified. I would beg Robert, Caleb's business partner. I'm like, hey, man, fucking convince Caleb to take some sort of financial education certification thing because, like,
He doesn't really need it, though. He's not giving people, like, investing advice. The only, like, financial advice he's giving is spend less than you make. He's not doing anything else. So he doesn't need a certification for that.
my job was difficult because, like, my job was to find someone who knew less about finance than Caleb Hammer, who was in a bad financial situation. In my opinion, you know, they would come on the show, Caleb would rip into them, right? And then it would kind of be on me to kind of clean up the blood, right? Make sure everybody was good enough, you know? Oh, that was for fun. That was for fun. You know, and by the way, like, you signed all these documents. That was all a joke, right? That was my job. If you want my opinion, this is my opinion. My role was there so that Caleb didn't have to feel the consequences of his own actions. Every day scared the shit out of me. These people would come to us and they would have mental health issues. They'd be like, hey, I'm really depressed. I have like multiple personalities, right? I have bipolar disorder. People would say that shit to me over the phone, right? Here's the other thing is that, like, I've wanted to be a YouTuber my entire life. I've done production my entire life. I fucking love people. I love people, right? And I took my job extraordinarily seriously, right? Extraordinarily seriously. I would talk to these people for hours and hours and hours before they ever showed up to the studio. I would know every single thing about them because ultimately I genuinely wanted to help them change their behavior so that they could lead to better outcomes, right? I wanted to make the best show we possibly could, but I also wanted to help these people because I cared about them. And so they would disclose to me that they have all of these mental health issues. And so I became paranoid about that too. And every single intake I did, I said, you know, hey, let us know if you have any mental health issues. And suddenly, like, if you had any mental health issues, you were suddenly not welcome on the show because, like, I didn't want to be responsible for somebody taking their own life and then blaming me for that, right? I didn't want to be complicit in that.
Okay, that seemed a little extreme to jump straight at. I do understand him being like, hey, like, I don't want to be working with people with heavy, like, mental health issues because that's kind of a liability can be a liability for the company, and it can't be. Sometimes it's not a good look too of just, like, bringing someone on like that and then just yelling about them about their finances when maybe what they really need first is a lot of therapy. So yeah, I kind of get that in a way.
Director, which is really nice. The Brent Davey episode. We get to a point where there is very little backlog. You know, there was so much going on that I was so stressed out that, like, we didn't have a backlog of episodes, and so we needed content, right? And we're all in crunch mode, right? In my opinion, people would back out. As Caleb got more and more aggressive, people would back out more and more frequently, right? In my opinion, people would, like, watch the show before they came on, and they'd be like, hey, I don't think I want to do this.
Which, again, makes sense. They're seeing comments of maybe people not being the nicest. They're seeing, like, Caleb be a little bit more, like, maybe aggressive, or maybe as aggressive as he always has been. Whatever you want to see it as. I'm not going to comment on whether, oh, yes, he definitely is more aggressive, or, oh, I'm watching the Brent Davey episode, which I think was, like, one of his, like, first videos, or it was something early on to, like, his second video with Brent Davey. I mean, he seemed the same. It just seemed like he was more confident on camera and more, like, I don't know, more being himself and more pushing back a little bit more, like, a little bit more, being a little bit more extroverted, like, saying the same stuff, just making it more, I guess, like, extroverted and, like, a little bit more animated is really the only difference that I've seen. But whatever, whatever this guy's opinion is whatever it is, you know, it is what it is. Oh, I lost my point. Oh, shit. But again, like, if people back out, people back out. Like, it's probably going to happen. Like, especially since now he's got more of, like, videos to watch, whatever. Like, it's going to happen. It is what it is. And you just have to learn to kind of work around that. I mean, luckily, it seems like his channel is very popular, so I'd assume he gets, like, a lot of people applying to it, though. Like, a lot of people might back out, but it seems like, I would assume a lot of people are applying to it.
Right? my opinion. And so like I'm like freaking out, right? Being like, cool, okay, I need a Hail Mary, I need a Hail Mary, I need a Hail Mary. And eventually I settle on this idea. I'm like, we need Brent Davey back on the show. And so I remember thinking like, okay, Brent Davey is my Moby Dick and I'm Captain Ahab, right? How can I get this motherfucker back on the show? So I bust ass, right? I call, it was tough to get Brent's phone number, but I finally find the right phone number. I call him. Brent doesn't want to talk to me, wants nothing to do with me, right? I eventually negotiate a situation where I'm like, Brent, like you hate Caleb.
Well, yeah, he hates Caleb. Why would he answer?
More than anything in the world, right? What if we got you to box Caleb on camera for a lump sum of money? Would you be open to this idea? I work on this problem for like a month, right? I go back and forth with Brent for like a month. I try to coordinate a boxing gym. I go to multiple different boxing gyms. I coordinate with Caleb's lawyers to try to get some sort of contract written where like we can get them to box. It all falls through, but eventually I get Brent to come back on the show, right? I get Brent to agree to come back on the show. He says, I want this much money, cash in a bag. I say, okay, we're gonna figure that out. Here is the deal. Brent was in a pretty rough situation. He had virtually no money. I believe at this time he was sleeping in his car.
Well, yeah, he was in his car, but he was also making like, I think like $3,000 just working on his, I think it was like his writing or whatever, and DoorDashing, and what else was it? I just watched this episode. It was his like music career as well. Making $3,000 is, I mean, yes, you'd have to put like $1,000 aside each month because that would be 1/3. So he's making $2,000. But I think he said he was working like 8 hours a day. So if he picked up like a part-time job and still worked 8 hours a day and then like wanted to do his like music stuff and stuff like that, like, and Caleb gave him a good amount of money too for, sounds like not only the episode, but like you see him give like Brent like $4,000 in cash just to get an apartment and stuff like that instead of living in his car. It's like, well, he doesn't seem like he's doing, I mean, completely awful. I mean, yes, he's living in his car, he's homeless, he's, you know, but I don't want to say it sounded like a choice, but from it sounded like he was maybe traveling a lot. And so because of that, he was like, you know what, I'm just gonna live in my car more. Because the first time I watched it, I was like, oh my goodness, he's like homeless. This is, you know, this is crazy. He's in a really rough situation. But like, just watching it back like an hour or two ago, it was like, it seemed more, it was like, oh, okay, he is making decent amount of money, but it sounds like he's traveling. He, you know, he's doing all this. It's a little bit more, maybe chosen to live in the car. And it seemed like he was looking at apartments anyhow at that time, which, I mean, personally for me, since he said, oh, Uber's not going too well, whatever, like I would have just probably picked up a part-time job and then continued writing, maybe even writing more hours than he's doing now, and then still doing the music stuff because he seemed very passionate about it. And it's like, well, yeah, you should obviously do what you're passionate about, but if it's not bringing a lot of money in, you gotta do other stuff on top of that. I mean, I really love YouTube, but I don't make any money from it, so I gotta do stuff on top of it. Now, if I was making like a super really good income on YouTube, then yeah, I would probably think about just work part-time somewhere and then just do YouTube. Because I don't think I would do well just doing YouTube and just staying indoors and staying kind of hidden all the time.
And from what I remember, his family relationships seemed strained. I saw this as an opportunity to tell a redemption story. Yes, I expected some tongue-in-cheek rivalry for the show, but my ultimate intent...
I mean, a redemption story with Brent, I mean, watching both the episodes, he seems very, woe is me, you know, like everything's terrible all the time. I just think that's like super wishful thinking. Like he was not willing to listen to Caleb at all, like listen to anyone. It looks like, I mean, they patted him down and used a different studio, because it sounded like from what they were saying, he was like emailing him like 40 times a day randomly, and maybe wasn't in the best headspace and just maybe even a threat. I don't know, but I don't see how you would get a redemption story if they're like Caleb was like literally telling Brent, yeah, I feel threatened from you.
Was to actually help Brent. I viewed getting him back on the show as a redemption arc. But once the camera started rolling, things shifted. Caleb revealed 2 custom t-shirts that featured mock-ups from Brent's original episode. The tone wasn't exactly financial. There weren't very many documents to really talk about, and the discussion veered away from anything too helpful. What was framed as a financial audit didn't really feel like one. It felt more like a spectacle that I had not signed up for. We get to a point in that recording where Brent is staring at the table.
Well, yeah, Brent's like, I don't even want to budge from you. I don't budget from you. I don't trust you. I don't do whatever. So like, what is he gonna do? He's gonna just like be like, okay, well, you know, you've come all the way out here, you've done all this, so we might as well just, I don't know, make something entertaining out of this.
He's completely incommunicado, right? He's completely done speaking. He literally tells Caleb, he goes, write down whatever it is you want me to say on a piece of paper and I will say it to you verbatim so that I can be done with this, okay? He's done. And then I heard something that made my stomach drop. I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like, if you don't finish this conversation and talk to me for another 30 minutes, you're not going to get paid. That moment stuck with me. Whatever the intent was, the impact was clear. Someone in a vulnerable state.
I kind of understand that, because at the end of the day, this is, yes, they're getting help from Caleb, but this is also a business transaction, basically. Like, you come on my show, you show me your finances, we talk about it, we make a full episode, you get your bag, and I get what I need out of this to make a YouTube video, and it is what it is. Like, this is, he's acting like this is not a business, this is not a transaction. It's going to, at the end of the day, it is a transaction. Like, this is not just something that they're just going to do for fun. This is, they got a lot of stake on, the business has a lot at stake now, because there's not just Caleb. I mean, he's hired a lot of people. So he's got to make sure everyone's, going to eat. And how they're going to eat is they got to make an episode. They got to pull stuff together. Like, I don't know what else to say.
Being cornered on camera.
I'm like, oh, can we wrap it up? And then you're like, well, you're not going to get your money. Noah Chrysler was there. He was there. And he agreed that was wrong.
Is he here now?
It's good that you have a better production team now, because
He was objectively fired for being a nuisance in the office and yelling at people constantly that we have on security camera.
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Of course
but-
not. You're just trying to use that to try to get a leg
No,
up
he
by
was
trying
there.
to have some
I'm not
online
trying
drama.
I'm not trying to
Listen
get
to
a
the words
leg
you're
up.
saying.
I'm not trying. I'm actually defending myself and criticizing your show.
But you're
Is that
unable
fair?
to in a factual way.
No, it is factual. It is factual. You threatened to not pay me
So do I get the answer
on
right
that,
now?
on that episode after we already filmed an hour and a half.
I'll answer it in
and
30 seconds.
And you threatened, and I said, well, we have an agreement, and you said it's not contractual. You don't even know what a contract is. It's a meeting of the minds. That's the proof in business
He's still
law.
getting
dude.
through it. Let him
This
get
is
him-
Business
let him get
Law
through it.
101.
Yes.
It's Business Law
Have you
101.
concluded?
Yes, go ahead.
We agreed to film a full episode in order to get the compensation. He was not doing it. He was shutting down and not talking. So of course he wouldn't get paid for filling out his contractual agreement. Fuck you. That's the literal reality.
That is not what happened. That is not what happened at
Well,
all.
you, someone
you
who-
threatened to withhold it all. I took a break, a little bit of a break, dude. Man, this is so adversarial. It sucks. It just blows, dude. This is why I don't like the show.
On camera. I remember the energy just draining from the room. It didn't feel like a show to me anymore. It felt like something else. But anyway, I watched this happen, and it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. Caleb plays hardball with Brent, and it barely works, and Brent continues to not speak. And that's when I step in, right? Because Brent and I, at this point, Brent and I have a relationship, right? And I talk to Brent, and I go, Brent, like, for a moment, screw Caleb, right? Like, don't think about Caleb for a moment. What is your plan for your life? Just tell us about that, right? And then Brent opens up about this story about like music and stuff, and how he wants to be a composer, and how he wants to he essentially wants to do piano, and he's making original art and stuff, and his music was beautiful, and that was great. But as I got Brent to keep talking, Caleb looks at me and he goes, Noah, stop talking, right? Like, Noah, stop. The way he commanded me to stop talking once Brent was continuing to film the show, and I was so used to that at that point that it worked, and I shut the fuck up. Brent finished the conversation after that.
Ooh. Yeah. I would assume he'd be like, okay, like, let Brent speak. Like, let's continue this, because now Brent is speaking, and now it's like, okay, now I have an opportunity to have a conversation, since it's, Caleb's the host, and the other person's like, it's about them too. It's not about the guys in the back.
Afterward, I had a conversation with someone on the team where I floated the idea, hey, what if Brent had been recording that conversation? The look that I got back from that teammate said it all. That's when it hit me. The unease that I felt, it didn't just seem to be mine. It was shared. It was real. I wanted to tell a story about redemption. What happened instead was something I couldn't justify. Suddenly, I felt like I was complicit for staying. Cool, this shit with Brent goes down. George Camel is coming into town. George Camel's coming into town to collaborate with Caleb Hammer. Oh my God, sound the alarm. George Camel, the TikTok Gen Z peeling side of Dave Ramsey, is coming to Hammer Studios, Hammer Media. What the fuck is the fucking building called? I don't fucking remember. So, George Camel is coming to film something with Caleb Hammer. Caleb Hammer says, oh my God, I have an idea. The last time that we by co-auditing him with Graham Stephan. That was kind of fun. Let's do the same thing. No, you ready for a co-audit? This time, again, I'm offered, it's like, hey, I can consent or I don't have to consent, but I'm thinking to myself, like, I really heavily consider it, right? I heavily consider it this time because now I'm disillusioned. I have watched Caleb Hammer take these people apart every single fucking day of my life for the past, 8 months. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, fuck me. Like, am I going to subject myself to this again, right? My finances were in a much, much better position. But at the same time, the emotional fallout that happened to me from coming on that show the first time was so fucking crazy. It was just so difficult to explain to anybody. The way that you feel naked in front of everyone is so strange. I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm supposed to do this again. Everybody in the audience was like, oh, I can't wait for Noah's follow-up. After a very, very long time where I'm like, I don't think this is a good idea, I eventually sit on it and I chew on it enough where I'm like, okay, fuck it, let's go. I've seen this guy take people apart. I am this guy's special sauce, right? I know this motherfucker and how he argues better than he does, right? So let's go. Let's be the wall, right?
I don't know if that's how I would go into a meeting or anything like that with my boss, is I'm going to outdo him. I'm going to out whatever because I know him now. I don't know. That's just strange. That doesn't seem like a smart idea. Just in general, it's a weird situation because this is a very public video. yeah, if you do like win the argument, let's say, it's like, okay, cool, like you just made content, sweet. But if this was like a private meeting or something, like you don't go into a situation like that. You don't go into a situation of like, oh, I'm gonna one up this person or whatever. Like you should just go in there and just be like, I don't know, have a normal freaking conversation. Like it is what it is. Like he's going through your finances. Yeah, he's gonna push back on you some, and it's kind of like, okay, well, I did make this decision or did whatever, and just like, if you want to own Caleb Hammer, just I guess like own up to stuff, and just try to give him the I guess like the truth of what you were thinking at the time or whatever. Like I don't know. This is so weird.
I know. I've seen behind the curtain. So I roll up to audit number 2. Again, I barely slept the night before. I've been preparing for weeks, right? I've been preparing the week beforehand, like running like scenarios where I'm like, okay.
Preparing for weeks? You're acting like about to box Godzilla, and you're like, you know what? I need to hit the gym a lot, and I need to do this, and I need to do that. Like, I'm sure this is just something that they were like, let's just do this for fun. Let's just do this for content. Like, whatever. It'll probably get a lot of views. So, hey, why not?
You probably can do that. I should probably go like this because I don't want to be humiliated again, right? The first time I went in, very like green-eyed, right? Green-eyed, bushy-tailed, and I remember the comments being like, oh, this guy's fucking nervous and talking too much and whatever. And so the second time I go in like this. Hi, welcome to the show. Yep, these are my finances. Go ahead and dig through them. Yep, whatever. We do the audit. I'm embarrassed to do the audit because during that month, I was spending so much money. I was not going into debt. I was not using debt at that time, right? But I was spending so much money trying to cope mentally with the I was just blowing money. I was making an incredible amount of money, and then I was blowing just as much, trying to live with myself. And so that was kind of like why I was ashamed to do the follow-up. Towards the beginning, I explained the emotional fallout from doing the show the first time, right? I explained how difficult it was for me. I explained what it was like to read the comments, and I explained how much respect I have for each of the people that do decide to come on Financial Audit because it's fucking grueling. The entire audit was very passive-aggressive. Now, conveniently, all of that footage was removed, right? The parts where I talk about the emotional fallout from me going on the show the first time, as well as all this other shit about. Eventually, days after, I was sent the rough cut of my conversation with George and Caleb, and all of those parts of the conversation were removed. The part where I talk about the emotional fallout was removed. The whole conversation was very strange, right? We do a stream afterwards too. And during the stream, there's a comment on the stream that's like, wow, it's so weird to see George around these people who are using such profanity, right? He would call the stream the Goon Squad, right? Anyway, whatever. We finished the fucking filming. I get a couple of days later, the rough cut, which is supposed to just be the raw footage, in my opinion. But they had removing sections of this conversation, without any notice, right? In my opinion. They removed all the parts where I was like, hey, going on the show fucking drove me crazy.
Wait, did he just say that without him knowing? But they just sent him the rough cut before they posted it. How much do you want? How much more preparation do you want before it gets posted? You got sent the rough cut. That's the whole point, so you can approve or disapprove of it, right? Am I reading this wrong? Am I stupid? I don't know.
Just snip that away. We don't need that. That'd be terrible. Until we have the correct answers. And so I remember that evening after the George Camel shoot and everything, I remember staying up very, very, very late, and I wrote an equation. Because I was at that point so much that I didn't know what was reality and what was not. I remember picking 4 criteria, right? The first criteria was long-term monetary health. The second criteria was short-term monetary health. The third criteria was long-term reputation. And the fourth criteria was morally correct. Those were the 4 criteria in which I evaluated my decision on. There was a decision matrix I needed to make as well, right? I could either quit and just walk the fuck out the door. I could try to implement change, or I could do a combination of multiple, right? Or I could do nothing. I remember sitting down and literally numerically assigning weights and doing a weighted average of how to conduct myself and make this decision. Morally correct was 60% of the weight. I knew there was going to be a negative short-term monetary impact to me if I quit my job, right? I assigned each one a score out of 10, so that was a 2 out of 10, right? I did have some savings though. I had about 3 months of savings, so I knew that even if I did decide to leave, the short-term monetary impact wouldn't be completely debilitating. Then I thought long-term monetary impact, right? It's okay, well, probably if I left, my long-term earning potential probably wouldn't be negatively hindered all too much. That was a 5 out of 10. Then it was long-term reputation, staying presented
Well, the thing is, it sounds like his mental health maybe wasn't the best. He wasn't really fit to handle that job, which, I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I've had jobs like that, and I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. I mean, it is what it is. But again, just learn and grow from it. Maybe try to stick in there as long as you can, and try to apply to different places. Even if it's McDonald's or something, if you're feeling that bad, and you have 3 months of savings, it's even if McDonald's is not going to break even every month, at least you have 3 months of savings, as well, and maybe that'll stretch you out to 6 months instead of 3 months because of, you're almost breaking even, but you're not. Maybe even try to downsize with apartment, see if you can, I don't know, find a roommate, do something, that's all I can really suggest is like try to do, you know, just try to get yourself out of that situation. Like it, you know, it's rough when you're in a job that you like are like, you know what, I can't handle this, or I'm not loving my job or whatever. But it's like, okay, I need to stick in there and try a different job and do whatever. Like you just gotta push through. You just gotta stick in there until you can just get the heck out.
And then morally correct. I ran these multiple scenarios, and I ultimately came away with scenarios, and what I ultimately came away with was I needed to leave. Leaving was probably the best option, but then I realized there was no marginal cost of trying to affect change on my way out the door. Right? That's what I perceived at the time. I could tell administration, hey,
okay, but like you're trying to. I get maybe he's like wanting maybe the best for the business, but you know, even when he's stepping out. But like if you think it's a very toxic work environment and you know no one's gonna like listen to you, you just need to worry about yourself. Is the thing. Like you need to just get out of there and get yourself a different job and just, you know, like it's not worth beating a dead horse. If that's how you feel that that company's running, like you feel like you're beating a dead horse, then try to get out of it. You either suck it up and continue because you're like, you know what? Even though I hate everything about this company, even though whatever, you know, the money's super great, so I'm going to stay there and just suffer through it, or you get a new job. Those are your two options. You know, just like I don't know what to tell you.
you know, these changes need to be made, and just see what happens. So I do that. The next morning, I go to Robert, Caleb's business partner. People are like, well, why didn't you just talk to Caleb about these things? And it's like, well, I did talk to Caleb about these things for months and months and months and months and months and months and months. And so it just became this like dead end, right? And so instead, I just talked to Robert. So I talked to Robert in the morning. I'm like, hey, Robert, like, I'm not going to have this conversation with you because it's being recorded by Caleb on the security camera, and I want to make sure that we can have a privileged moment between you and me. So instead, we go for a walk around the facility, and I explain to Robert, I go, Robert, can you explain to me why you think some of the things that we're doing here are okay? And he goes, yeah, well, you know, these three things are true about our operation and true about Caleb, meaning that all of the stuff that we're doing here is justified. I go, okay, cool. I listen to him for about 45 minutes, explain these three things, right? Then I give him instances where each one of those three things was blatantly violated by Caleb. You know, you're saying that it's okay that we did this because he didn't do this, but that's actually not true because I can point to the situation here. We had this conversation around the building. I then tell Robert, I go, Robert, have you seen the fucking raw shoot footage from Brent Davey? Because like I had Robert go and look for the source footage, right? Because that was obviously removed from the edit. So I go and I get the raw footage from Brandon, or I encourage Robert to go get that from Brandon, and Robert watches that footage. Robert then goes and he talks to Caleb for some time. And it's a normal day of work, right? So we all sit back down. Now, at this point, the editing team had finished editing the episode with Brent Davey. And so it's a Friday, I think. And so like over lunch, before the guest for that day is coming in, over lunch, we all sit down and we watch the Brent Davey edit. The Brent Davey video opens with, you know, this like joking caricature opening about how it's like a Smash Bros intro. It's framed as like a friendly rivalry. Throughout this conversation, you know, as Caleb systematically humiliates Brent over and over and over again with each t-shirt and whatever, I just look around the room and every single person in this room is smiling and laughing. And I realize like truly like the level of dehumanization that is going on, right? It's like this man that we're laughing at right now.
Well, it's a stick, you know. That it's entertainment. It's not just finances. It's entertainment. I mean, he's clearly an entertainment YouTube channel. It's like watching Top Gear or Grand Tour. Yeah, it's about cars, and they're super into cars, and they're super into like modifying stuff and doing all this. But at the same time, a lot of people are there for the entertainment. There's a reason I stopped watching Top Gear and started watching Grand Tour is because I didn't really care about like. Yeah, the cars were cool, and I like design, so I like looking at car designs, but I can just go do that on the internet. Like, I can do that anywhere I want to. I specifically watch that show for those three guys. And so when those three guys left and decided that they were going to start up for Grand Tour, I watched them three guys on Grand Tour. And it's like, I find them most funny when they're all three together, other than, I do like Jeremy's new Clarkson Farm. That's really good. I think Jeremy's good at finding people that kind of like mesh together well, and it's very, it has that like duo type feel where it's like, okay, like this is not just about farming, and I am very interested about farming and all that kind of stuff. You know, my grandparents, my great grandparents, all of them were into farming, and I don't know any of that stuff. Like that's not how I was raised, and so I find that very fascinating and interesting. Going back to the car stuff, it's like I just watched them because they were funny. And it's like with Caleb, like, yeah, I know we're going to talk about finances every time. And like, I kind of am interested in finances, not really. Like I know there's stuff that I need to do better on and stuff like that, but it's like, I do go there for the entertainment. And there is some stuff where it's like, I'm listening to them and I'm like, you know what, that's not terrible advice. Like I probably should be doing that too. You know, like there is some realization there as well.
And we're all sitting around as Caleb is literally making fun, as Caleb is literally making fun of him for online views and money. And I'm furious. I'm sitting there staring daggers across from myself into another production person. And Robert stops the filming. He realizes, Noah's like having a fucking mental break. Because I'm right. Like I watched something fucking horrible go down. And I'm fucking tweaking. And so Robert stops the viewing party, right? Robert stops the viewing party. We go and we film with the guest. And then that afternoon, I'm called into Robert's office. The last conversation that I had in person with Caleb Hammer was when we recorded that last post show. I don't even fucking remember what happened during that conversation. I was disassociating the entire time. I sit down and pulled into Robert's office, and Robert fires me, which I knew was coming. I am
What is he? Okay. I was like,
and then
what's
to be
happening?
fired,
Is he
to be
broken?
fired by like, to not even be fired by that person, right? To have him have his buddy do the dirty work, right? Of firing me. So anyway, I get home.
When Caleb might have hired that person to not specifically just fire people, but like handle employee stuff. Like, it's not always the CEO coming up to you and being like, well, you're fired. It's like, even in a small business, it's like, it could just be like a manager or an HR person, or like, it's like, yeah, it is what it is. And if you knew you weren't happy there, again, should have just found a different job and quit that one.
I get home, and as I'm being fired, Robert E. proposes. And as I'm being fired, Robert E. proposes this idea to me that, like, you know, they'll pay me if I sign their severance agreement. It's an NDA that. And so, you know, the deal is put on the table of sign this deal, get paid your and get the fuck out. I tell Robert during the interaction that I need at least 2 weeks in order to evaluate that decision, but I knew deep in my fucking soul that I was never going to fucking sign a piece of paper like that. That evening, as this negotiation is on the table, Caleb Hammer texts me the security camera footage of me being fired, right, of Robert firing me. The next morning, he sent me an email about, oopsie, I had confided in him, right, multiple times on his show, that I had trauma around being fired. That night, after I received that text message from Caleb Hammer, I immediately freaked the fuck out. I was terrified, right? I was terrified. Caleb Hammer knew where I lived. I lived less than a mile from his studio. I lived less than a quarter mile from his studio. I would skateboard to his fucking studio. I went and I bought mace, I bought a baseball bat, and I bought a fucking doorstop because I had no idea what was going to happen, right? My skin was fucking obliterated in that moment.
Again, no one who fires you is going to come to your door later and just, like, I don't know, break down and yell at you or something. Unless you, like, started destroying their stuff or something like that. They might want to have a conversation with you at that point, but, like, you didn't really do anything. You just were like, I just want to change everything. And they were like, well, clearly you're not wanting to go in the same direction that we're wanting to take the business, and since Caleb owns it, goodbye, I guess. Like, it just seems like a difference in opinions. Of you wanted it to go one way and they want it to go another way, and since the one person that wants it to go the other way is the person that owns it and not you, and you're not willing to compromise or even try to understand why, it's kind of like, yeah, they're gonna let you go.
I get the next morning, which is plausible deniability in my opinion. Caleb says, oh, whoopsie, I accidentally sent you the footage of your own firing, right? My mother immediately flies down to Austin, Texas, right? She drops everything. I was so mentally fucked up that, like, I was genuinely, like, terrified, right? I go to a lawyer, and I essentially decide this. I decide I'm not signing anything, and I essentially propose this to them. I propose the peace treaty because, like, if Caleb told the story definitively about my departure from that company, I knew I was going to spend so much time rewriting the public narrative that, like, I couldn't have that, right? So I'm like...
To be fair, I didn't realize he was the one who got fired for the longest time. I've heard Caleb many times in different audits be like, oh yeah, you know, I let someone go because they wanted to do X, Y, like they had all these good ideas, but they never, like, went through with it, or they were just like, they were everywhere, or we had basically too much different. I didn't realize he was talking about him, and now that he's released this video, I understand now that Caleb was talking about him. But I've never heard, like, really, I mean, nothing aggressive. It was just kind of like, well, yeah, this is kind of employee he was, and we didn't really need that, so we hired someone else.
Look, if you talk about this at all, then I will talk about this too. I will agree to not talk about this situation if you agree to not mention me. And they go for that, which is great. That buys me time. That said, it also makes me walk on eggshells for the next, like, 6 months of my life, right? If you don't talk about me, I won't talk about you. That's the armistice that we have for multiple months. My mom flies down. I'm fucking terrified. We take all my shit. We sell most of it, right? I literally lose thousands of dollars in value of my shit just because, like, I'm like, get me the fuck home, right? I sell all my shit because I'm fucking terrified. People don't understand that, like, I genuinely feared for my safety. And you can make fun of me of that. Like, I don't care. But, like, I genuinely, to my core, was like, this man is powerful, so get me the fuck home. And in less than a week, I sell all my shit, and we drive from Austin, Texas back to New York. The drive is about 22 hours or something.
He's not,
you know,
freaking, like, Jeff Bezos or Jeffrey Epstein. Like, he's just some dude that's successful on YouTube. I don't know how powerful Caleb is.
Traffic, and we had traffic. I did this in 2 days, right? I was so scared that we shoved all of my shit in my car after selling what we could, and we fucking haul ass back to Syracuse in 2 days. I drove, of the 22 hours, I think I drove like 18 of them or 17 of them by myself, and my mom did like a little bit of the relief. And suddenly I'm back home. I'm having trouble with this because this is awful to talk about. Like, I bet nobody's gonna fucking even watch this late into the video. If you watch this late into the video, post a comment. At this point, I'm back in New York, right? I'm back in New York. Like, my mind is racing, right? I'm like, okay, you know, how do I come out on top from all this, right? That's like what my mind is doing. Right? Well, I built a company, not realizing at the time, like, how deeply psychologically fucked up I am from all of this, right? I don't realize that I'm like I think I'm like hard, right? I think I'm like, oh, fuck it. I don't realize that I think I'm like Iron Man 1, right? And I realize, upon reflection, I'm actually Iron Man 3 when he starts to have like PTSD fucking like flashbacks and shit, and he has like a panic attack, and Jarvis is like, dude, I think it's just you freaking the fuck out, right?
How did you get out of the wormhole?
Yeah, but Iron Man, like, let's say Iron Man was, like, totally real. Like, this happened totally in life. It's like, well, Iron Man seemed like he went through war stuff. He's saving people. He's doing, you know, superheroes have a thing where a lot of people, like, end up passing around them, and not in the, not in just, like, old age wise. It's a lot of, like, in war ways. So yeah, you're gonna have PTSD if you're experiencing war type stuff. You got laid off. This is not the same.
Anxiety attack.
Me?
After weeks and weeks and weeks of people telling me what to do and, oh, well, you know, you shouldn't talk about it, right? 'Cause everyone I'm surrounded by, I was so afraid when I came back. I was just telling them all of the horrible things that Caleb could do to me if he so choose, right? If I navigated the situation the wrong way, maybe he could sue me. Maybe he could send somebody after me. Maybe he could send a private investigator after me. Maybe he could try to slander my online reputation. Maybe he could try to make it so that I can never get hired in this industry ever again. He could blacklist me. Maybe he could do all these things. I would tell everybody in my life all these things, like, ad nauseum, right? And so, like, they started to mirror those statements back to me, right? And I didn't even...
You seem like super paranoid, dude. Like, maybe let's just go to therapy. Like, let's just, yeah. This is, like, I don't really like therapy because I don't want to be telling people, like, my issues and my problems. Like, I know I have issues and problems, but I don't want to be telling some stranger that I'm paying my issues and problems. I would rather, like, just, like, talk with my friends and, you know, talk it out and find coping mechanisms and talk with them and see what coping mechanisms maybe they use for certain stuff. I don't know. Not that therapy is a bad thing. I just don't really like it.
Think about that. The public violation, Caleb breaking his promise to not talk about you, his sanitized story gaining traction on Reddit, your intervention with facts, timeline, and receipts. You know, I send Caleb's team a message. I'm going to go correct these old false narratives about me over on Reddit that your audience, they're all spreading speculation. So I jump into those threads and I clarify. Before I did that, I sent communications to Caleb Hammer and his team. I'm like, look, I will not tolerate false narratives being spread about me in this situation. It is one of the most traumatic situations of my fucking life. I go take to Reddit after that and I correct the record. 2 days later, Caleb jumps into a Reddit thread and if you look back at my content since the start of since the relaunch of my channel, there are seeds sown through all of my content about this situation. I'm talking about past traumatic situations from my life. I'm talking about other stuff, but I'm talking about that in the wake of this situation, this fucking mental nuclear bomb that I went through. The last video that I posted to this channel, it's supposed to be a dream sequence, right? Where it's supposed to be about like, hey, like imagine this idea that like you could wake up, become self-aware in your own life as if you're in a lucid dream. You could make an application video that gets you sent halfway across the country so that you can go and fucking work on a show that's seen by millions of people. You could lucid dream in your own life, take control of your own life and fucking write reality, right? But then what if that lucid dream becomes a waking nightmare? What if you get caught in a web that you didn't see? People are going to call me a clout chaser. People are going to call me all sorts of fucking horrible, fucked up shit. But like, look, here's the facts of that. I've been making content for over 10 years. I am not a successful content creator. I don't have a critical mass of audience. I don't have critical mass of people that support me. And you know what? This video will probably be one of the most viewed things I've ever made in my entire fucking life. And you know what? People are going to be like, well, you know what? He's only attacking Caleb because whatever. And you know what? That's not true. That said, I've been trying to become a content creator for the past decade, and I've failed at it. I'm trying to make things systematically and produce things at a regular cadence, but I have a attention deficit disorder, and so it makes execution of those things very difficult, right? I'm working with a team of people right now that is very, very successful and like really good and experienced at what.
Oh wait, okay. I think I'm just gonna wrap it up here. But basically, yes, I have ADD too. I understand that, you know, you can see on my channels that I'm not always very consistent and stuff like that. I also have another job on top of that, like, so that drains me sometimes. Like, yes, like I get it, like I do. And if he wants to do it, fine, that's great. And hopefully maybe it turns out as a job someday. Yeah, I get that. Like I get those aspirations. Like I want the same thing. But like, yeah. 10 years, if you've been doing it for 10 years, okay, maybe it should be a hobby like the entire time. Maybe you're gonna make a little money on the side because of it. It's like I as a small content creator, even though I would love an editor for at least this, so that way I can just like send videos to them and not have to worry about editing, because that's probably one of my least favorite things to do. I'd rather be working on my animation channel instead, putting stuff together. But like, I just, like, you can't, if you're not making money and you're basically living in one of your parents' buildings that they own or whatever, like, and you're not financially supporting yourself, like, yeah, like you need to edit stuff on your own. You need to, like, work, like just quote unquote a normal job, not just your business. Because I'll just say, you know, YouTube can be a business. It can be a hobby or it can be a business. It can be a bit of both. Whatever you want to do. With YouTube, that's kind of the beauty of YouTube, is like, if you want to be a corporate Mr. Beast, you can. But if you also just want to like be like, hey, this is just my hobby and I just want to talk crap on the internet, you can. Like, or, you know, I want to do a little bit of both. You know, I want to be a little bit corporate, but I also want to be, I still want to be making stuff that's that I enjoy. But, you know, sometimes I have to realize, oh, maybe I was watching a guy that was like, oh, you know, every time I play video games no one cares and no one watches, so I have to play the other ones. And it's like, well, why don't you just do both? Like, that's his job all the time. So it's like, why don't you just do both? Like, yeah, like stream sometimes like the games that you want to play, then sometimes the games that get views and get you money and make sure that you have a roof over your head. Like, you can do both. It's fine. Again, that's like the beauty of YouTube and Twitch and Kick and all of that. But yeah, I just don't know how he's justifying paying others when he's like, I mean, he's getting like 600 views right now. Like, you're not making much money. Like, you're doing this as more of a, numbers wise, this is more a hobby. This is not a successful business. This is just, it's just a hobby, and that's okay. Like, that is okay. It is. Like, you know, maybe this is what you really want to do with the rest of your life, and maybe you won't get to do it on a big scale, and that's fine. We all have the luxury of now of at least doing what we want to do the rest of our lives, like, on to at least. Like, we can at least show what we're super passionate about. That doesn't mean we'll always get like a job in that field. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it means like, hey, you know, YouTube success, this is what you get to do all the time now. Like, you just don't know what life's going to throw at you. But I just like you're not looking out for yourself. You're not. This is like the whole thing of him just going into Caleb Hammer and being like, you need to change X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z, and X, Y, and Z. It's like, you're not happy at that job. You're not. You yourself are not like clearly mentally capable of doing that job, and that's okay. But you don't have trauma from it. You just have like, you just can't do that job, and that's fine. You just can't, it seems like, work with people that much, which again is okay. You just have to find something different that you enjoy. Like, I don't know. I think he's just too paranoid, and he's just too like victimizing himself instead of like sitting back and realizing, maybe this just wasn't the best job for me and I need to change directions. Like, I still super passionate about media and I'm super passionate about X, Y, and Z, but you know what, maybe I'm not. Like, and I've had that too when I got let go and stuff. Like, I really wasn't happy at my job at that time either. Like, yes, I was sick and I was doing all this, but I really wasn't happy at my job all the time because I wasn't happy with working with people that much, like being that people heavy. So it's like, now I'm trying to find jobs where it's like, okay, I'm still, you know, working with people, but it's like the same. Like, I want to work consistently the same people because I'll understand how to like read them better, navigate stuff better, communicate better, and just, how do I explain it? But just still do what I love, I guess. It's just changing a little bit different of direction. And just seeing if I can change different direction. Seeing if there is a job out there like that. That's just maybe not so customer service based in the art industry. Which is hard to find, don't get me wrong. But it's just, you know, I'm really passionate about art, but, you know, I'm not, you know, I recognize maybe I'm not too good with working with the public heavily. So I need to find that balance of, can I find a job that doesn't work with public too much, but I can still, you know, if I have to, you know, obviously I will, but, you know, I just think you're just not taking any takeaways from this, and you just need to sit and take takeaways from this, figure out what you want to do. Maybe you just don't need to be as in a high stress job, and that's okay. You know, I'm not in as much of a high stress job, like what I find stressful, I'll say, and, you know, I'm really enjoying myself right now. And I'm doing YouTube, I'm still working, I'm like, I'm out in a place where I can go hiking a lot now, so that eats up a lot of my time, even though the winter's coming, so I probably won't go outside at all unless, you know, I have to for work, but, so I'll probably start making more videos if I can. I know December's gonna be very heavy, but, yeah, you just gotta sit down and reflect, dude, that's it. Like, that's like this whole 2 hours and 18 minutes, like, wrapped up in, like, 10 seconds. Just reflect, move on, you're gonna be fine.